life flows on in endless song of earth's lamentation. I hear a weird far off hymn that brings a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the news it bringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest around me roars? I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness around me blows? Songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost throng, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? As Unitarian Universalists, we believe truth is larger than any one book or way. Religion and science, they go hand in hand. Integrity requires freedom of conscience. Diversity, it's something to celebrate. In the struggle for justice, we come alive. Our highest aspiration and calling is love. When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are run defiled, how can I keep from singing? Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever path you are on, you are welcome here.
This morning, we light our chalice with words from our Unitarian Universalist Association president, the Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt, who speaks to the recent eruption of violence in the Middle East. Let us pray for the people of Israel and Palestine. Let us pray for leaders around the globe who must respond to this latest flare of violence and the untenable ethical considerations that abound. Let us pray for Muslim and Jewish UUs who experience the impact of this long strife acutely. We are one global family living tenuously on the same human-impacted earth. Let us center ourselves in justice as we call for peace.
Welcome all. How is your heart these days, given everything? My colleague, the Reverend David Miller, may speak for some of us, or maybe even many of us, when he says, "My heart, so often broken by our inhumanity to each other, already so bruised by the unnecessary brutality of dictators and our own internal dysfunctional American conflicts, is now again still adding the pain and sorrow of those so brutally damaged in the Middle East, by those whose ongoing differences breed such endless and senseless destruction. To assume any clear answer feels foolish. To give up hope feels tempting. to tremble in the midst of horror feels completely understandable. To stop trying to give birth to love in this world feels unacceptable. Thank you for being here today. To stop trying to birth love in this world does indeed feel unacceptable. We meet in times of joy and in times of sadness. Whatever the times we meet, and we support the birth of love in this world in all the ways that we can. And I want to say that you can find information about just some of these ways in your order of service this morning. We have part 2 of our Connection Fair happening in Baker Hall after the service. Find out some of the ways in which you can, through this congregation, be a part of giving birth to love in a world that needs more love. Now, some of these activities are directly related to the nurture of this community, and so take a look at your West Shore Weekly with me, and you will see something on the first page. Sign up for Senior Minister Performance Review. The senior minister's me, okay? And I am honestly encouraging you to share your feedback. Stop in the rotunda table after the worship service to sign up for a small group session led by our review committee of Jeff Modulewski, Vicki Warden, and Joe Schaefer. And now we have an announcement from member Jeff Martin about our nominating committee.
Good morning. I am Jeff Martin, and I'm leading the nominating committee. I am joined in that task by Marinelle Rossou, Suzanne Rusnick, April Stoltz, Rachel Modulewski, and Carol Sweet. Our task is to find 3 people who find it in their hearts to serve the church by joining our board of trustees, and 3 people who are willing to pick up the task that I'll be stepping away from next year in the nominating committee work. We decided as a group to turn to the collective wisdom of our beloved community. Perhaps you're sitting there right now saying, you know, I might be able to do that. Or you may be saying, I know someone who would be perfect for that position. Well, come November, we are going to start the task in earnest of contacting people. We're putting together our lists of people we're considering at this point. So, if you believe you know someone, or would you yourself be willing to serve, please contact one of the 6 people I have mentioned here. And I thank you for your time.
Of the nominating committee. Thank you, Jeff. Now, I want to ask, if you are here for the first or second time and you do not mind people knowing, could you raise your hand? Let us, wonderful, welcome. Be sure to, yes, absolutely. So look for one of those folks as we move into our greeting time. Look for one of them to say, welcome to West Shore. We're glad you're here this morning. Save the connections with folks you already know for Baker Hall, for coffee hour. Say hello to our new folks. Children and youth are dismissed to their classes. The greeting time will end with the sounding of our bowl. Let's do it. Let's greet each other.
Good morning. It's a pleasure today to introduce our morning's outreach offering. I'm Jerry Devis, a member of the Worship, Music, and Arts Council, along with my co-chair, David Blazer. We're one of 5 councils, and we have the pleasure each year of selecting an outreach offering candidate. Today we have chosen Dancing Wheels. It's our honor to recognize this fabulous organization. It's internationally known. It was founded over 40 years ago by Mary Verity Fletcher. They have performed locally, Playhouse Square. I'm certain many of you have seen performances locally, as well around the world, most recently Mexico and other places. They are very proud of their professional programming, and this morning, Sarah Lawrence Sakata is here. Sarah brings a wealth of experience in the field of dance. She has been with them for 17 years, correct? And she serves as rehearsal director. She's a company teacher for physically integrated dance techniques, and she's a master teaching artist. She is the Director of Outreach and Community Engagement for Dancing Wheels. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Jerry, and the Worship, Music, and Arts Council for your support, recognition, and in your offering today. I'm Sarah Lawrence Sakata, and I now serve as the Director of Education for Dancing Wheels Company and School, but I've worked with Mary in various capacities since 2006, including as a dancer professionally in the company for 16 years. Mary started Dancing Wheels in 1980. She was born with spina bifida at a time when babies were left to die. As she tells it, she was born with a tear in her eye and a smile on her face. This is reflective for her determination, despite many challenges and having a disability, to do well in the world, to dance, and to afford the opportunity to others, for others to dance. I'd like to share a video about the impact Mary and Dancing Wheels has had on individuals and the larger scope of the arts community, especially in dance, from locally to abroad.
We dance to shatter stereotypes. For the inclusion of all abilities.
As a child growing up with a disability, I always wanted to follow in my mother's footsteps, who was a professional dancer, but there wasn't any place to train or participate. So I started experimenting with non-disabled dancers who were friends of mine and saw that it would really complement a dance.
To inspire.
When I first started Dancing Wheels, I wanted to go into the schools specifically because I felt that I wanted to give back. I wanted to give back my art. I wanted to give back my inspirations that helped me become independent.
To entertain.
We perform for large group audiences and also for assembly programs in the schools. And to hear the stories of the children and their ideas of what dance and disabilities can be or should be, you can really see that it changes their attitudes.
To have fun.
To educate. For Mary. In 1980, Mary founded Dancing Wheels and became the first professional wheelchair dancer in America. Mary is truly an inspiration to us all. I have met so many people that she's touched their hearts. She is truly an angel to people with and without disabilities.
To prove anything is possible,
We dance for the city that rocks, from the company that rolls. We dance to celebrate the spirit of dance.
On behalf of Mary, who was not able to be here today, although she is very busy dancing and getting us prepared for our tour in a week to Mexico, on behalf of Dancing Wheels, thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, Sarah. Now, a gracious gift in honor of an outstanding organization, Dancing Wheels, will be accepted. Thank you.
Wonderful Dancing Wheels. Love it. Thank you so much for being among us today. And we have another special guest I want to introduce to you right now. His name is Roger Sams, and he will be leading our next segment, which is focused on spiritual movement. Now, Roger is an internationally respected music educator, having worked with teachers and children in Canada, China, Indonesia, India, Poland, Scotland, I don't have enough fingers, Scotland, Singapore, South Korea, Spain, and throughout the United States. His teaching experience, along with the unfolding of his life, led him into deep exploration of the transformational nature of music and movement. He is a certified trance dance ritual facilitator and is trained in Gestalt therapy. He is the owner of Soulwork Sanctuary, a digital platform supporting your highest and best expression of yourself through the arts. Please welcome warmly Roger Sams.
Thank you very much. I'm really delighted to be here on Dancing Wheels Day. Mary used to come to my school in Shaker Heights back in the very early days, so I've been able to witness that beautiful work. And for me, movement is spiritual practice. So I'm happy to be here on a day we're talking about spiritual practice. And for me, movement is a meditation or a form of prayer. So I have a hard 10 minutes, now down to about 7 minutes, to give you a little tiny taste of that. So if you could, stand up and plant your feet squarely on the ground, about shoulder width apart, and let your knees just kind of bounce. And just close your eyes. And notice your breath. Notice the expansion and contraction of your belly as you inhale and exhale. Now imagine or sense or visualize that as you inhale, you draw the life force up from the earth through the soles of your feet, all the way up to the crown of your head. And as you exhale, you draw the life force down from the heavens through the crown, all the way down to the soles of your feet. gently traveling up and down your body with your awareness at the rate of your breath. Every time you inhale, divine feminine spirals up from the earth. Every time you exhale, divine masculine spirals down from the heavens. Together they do the dance of life, the dance of the cosmic DNA, birthing the spark of light that is your true essence. Experience that light in the center of your chest, in your heart chakra. You might see it. You might feel it. Experience that vibration, that light of your heart energy growing stronger with every breath and sending your heart light out and gently illuminating your entire physical body. And we're going to just pay attention to body parts and give our body permission to move however it wants to move. I don't call it dancing because we have ideas about what dancing should look like. This is movement that can look however your body wants it to look. So let's start the music. And when the music starts, just allow your head to sink forward, keeping your awareness on your breath and your eyes closed. How does your head want to move this morning? However your head wants to move is perfect. It doesn't matter what it looks like. So for about 7 minutes, we're just really listening to our bodies and giving our bodies exactly the movement it longs for. Now, take that heart light and shine it up to your shoulders and bring your shoulders into your movement prayer. However your shoulders want to move is perfect. Head and shoulders moving together in relationship with each other. And you're just giving your body total permission to move in whatever way feels nourishing and juicy and delicious and good. And now shine your heart light into your elbows. Bring your awareness into your elbows. How do your elbows want to pray this morning? Head, shoulders, elbows, all in movement together. Your eyes are closed. Nobody can see you. However your body wants to move is just perfect. Now shine your heart light down into your hands. Let your movement generate itself from your hands. Your elbows and your shoulders and your head, just follow your hands. And it should just feel good once you pass through the feeling silly part, because I know it feels unusual to just move however you want like this. And as the music shifts, let's shift our awareness to our spine. Our eyes are still closed, But now we're going to just really pay attention to our spine and let our spine move however it wants to move.
Everything is sacred. Everything is filled with the divine. Everything is alive with spirit.
And now bring your hips in, spine and hips moving together.
Everything is a wonder. Unfolding right
And now bring your knees in. So we've got head and shoulders and elbows and hands and spine and hips and knees moving and praying together. And imagine that you're just sending your heart light and your love energy out into the space, feeding and nourishing with your light all the others here in this space. And very slowly acknowledging that you've just infused this space with your light energy. Bring your body to stillness as the volume of the music comes down. So next Sunday afternoon, Reverend Shirley and I are going to do a little afternoon of dancing into a grace field and bathing into a grace wash. So if you want to experience some grace through movement next Sunday afternoon, Reverend and Shirley and I will be hanging out together. Thank you, Reverend Anthony. And hope you enjoyed a little tiny taste of movement as meditation.
In their book, The Spirituality of Imperfection, Ernest Kurtz and Catherine Ketchum share a story about a time when a group of addiction experts from Russia visited the United States and attended several Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, hoping, and I quote, to find in those smoky rooms something that could be used to fight the serious alcohol problem in their homeland. These addiction experts from Russia, they listened to all of the stories being told. They talked to the Alcoholics Anonymous members, and they decided that yes, there was something here that could help. But what was it exactly? They couldn't quite figure it out. At the end of one of the meetings, they approached their hosts, several of whom were themselves recovering alcoholics. "We want to make alcoholics like that," they said. "Teach us how." Well, the hosts smiled in gentle understanding. "Well," they said, "that's what we've been doing this evening. You see, you learn how to be like that only by being like that." But the Russians sputtered. "Surely there could be something you could share with us, a technique, a certain kind of approach, some kind of trick that could make all of this easier." "No," came the reply. "What you see in this smoky room, what you want to take home with you, is spirituality. And if there is one thing that all alcoholics discover, recovering alcoholics, is that there are no shortcuts to spirituality, no techniques that can command it, and especially no tricks. That's what we tried to find in the bottle, in booze, in alcohol. It didn't work. What we have learned is that the only technique is what we call a four-letter word. It is spelled T-I-M-E. And that's the story from Ernest Kurtz and Catherine Ketchum and their book, The Spirituality of Imperfection. By the way, do you like that title? It's a pretty good title. My first sermon I ever preached had that as its title. I think I preached on for about almost 2 hours. It was a very imperfect sermon. That's what I'm trying to say. It lived up to the title. Now, right now, I want you to imagine something with me. I want you to imagine that this worship space among us has suddenly been transformed into one of those Alcoholic Anonymous meeting rooms. Okay? Use your imagination with me. That's what's happened to this space right now. Although I do want to say that these days the rule is no smoking indoors, so it's not going to be a smoky space. Okay? So imagine with me, you're sitting in a metal chair. It's probably uncomfortable. Okay? You've got a coffee cup or a teacup in your hand. Here we are. Now, some of you already have experience with this, and you're going to feel right at home. Okay? Others of us do not. In fact, some of us here today may honestly not be struggling with addiction. And we are also not enablers of folks who do have addictions. So if this person is you, well, you might be wondering if today's sermon is going to miss the mark for you. But maybe by the T-I-M-E, our meeting is done, you'll see that there's wisdom for you here as well. Whoever you are in this room, with others who are indeed working the 12 steps, and they are sharing those 12 steps actively with others. How many of you, by the way, are familiar with the 12 steps? Okay. It's a set of guiding principles, first published in 1939 in The Big Book, more formally known as Alcoholics Anonymous, the story of how more than 100 men have recovered from alcoholism. Since then, these guiding principles have been adapted to become the foundation for all sorts of recovery programs: Adult Children of Alcoholics, Codependents Anonymous, Crystal Meth Anonymous, Workaholics Anonymous, Online Gamers Anonymous, and on and on. The American Medical Association summarizes the 12 steps as follows: admitting that one cannot control one's addiction or compulsion, recognizing a higher power that can give strength, the God of one's personal understanding. Although I do want to say as a side note that I have put in your order of service a version of the 12 steps that doesn't use God language. There's a link there you can go to, so just so that you know that. Another aspect of the 12 steps: examining past errors with the help of a sponsor or an experienced member, making amends for these errors, learning to live a new life with a new code of behavior, helping others who suffer from the same addictions or compulsions. That's the American Medical Association, their summary of the 12 steps. Now, there is a powerful form of spirituality here. That is what gathers us together in this room this morning, in the TIME of this day. That, and you know there's going to be a lot of humor also. Lots of sayings, lots of slogans, as in, let me share a couple with you. Here's one: how come if alcohol kills millions of brain cells, it never killed the ones that made me want to drink? I'm an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. Just think about that one. Okay? The good news is that you get your emotions back. The bad news is that you get your emotions back. I would rather go through life sober, believing I am an alcoholic, than go through life drunk, trying to convince myself that I'm not. All of these sayings, all of these slogans. Alcohol gave me wings and then slowly took away my sky. Or this one: resentments are like stray cats. If you don't feed them, they'll go away. Or this one: I can't do God's will my way. Okay? Or the power behind me is greater than the problem in front of me. Or I used to be a hopeless dope fiend. Now I am a dopeless hope fiend. And the shortest sentence in the big book is, it works. It works. You know, one of the main things that happens in the space of a 12-step meeting, this space that we're imagining has become a 12-step meeting space. One of the main things is storytelling. Storytelling. Rabbi Rami Shapiro speaks to this in his book, Recovery, where he says, I am not drawn to 12-step meetings to listen to people who are perfect. I am drawn to listen to people who are broken and who have found the wisdom in that brokenness that allows them to live in a place of love. We don't ignore the trauma of the past, he continues. We don't ignore the trauma of the past, and our story is still rooted in it, but it is no longer controlled by it. We don't end up where we began. By learning to tell our story over and over, we learn to free ourselves from the emotions attached to it. We begin to tell the story in a detached manner. We own the story. The story does not own us. So here we are, all of us together in this Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, seated in uncomfortable metal chairs, coffee cup in hand or tea cup in hand, and now I'm going to tell my story, at least a part of it. True story. Hi, my name is Anthony. Okay, let's try that again. No, really, we're imagining this is, okay? Hi, my name is Anthony. Hi, Anthony. There you go. I remember my mom drugging as I was growing up. Dad was drugging too, but only after I left home for college, as far as I know. Before that, Dad was just Mom's supplier. And since he was a medical doctor, the supply was endless. I remember my mom as either crazy high and rushing around the house, obsessively vacuuming the rugs, compulsively polishing the windows and dusting and straightening. Either this, or she'd be crashed on the couch, catatonic, gone, dead to everything. Either way, she was not available. And I felt this lack of connection in my body as an insecurity that ate into my child's heart and made it hard to look into the eyes of my teachers or friends at school. I felt it as an irritability that would not go away, a restlessness that made it hard to receive things like friendship and fun and peace, and just spoiled everything, and could only be soothed by busyness, activity, movement, not the kind of movement we just experienced. Not that kind at all. I could never receive that. I was also soothed by a thing called snooping. Snooping. I was an incurable snoop while growing up. What's in this drawer? What's in this desk? I marveled at how perfectly everything would be stacked and sorted in the house I grew up in. It got to be a game, although I learned only too late, and much to my surprise, that my mom was playing the game too. So one afternoon, I snuck into a room in our house that had a piano in it. And the rug had been carefully vacuumed in such a way that the tracings of the vacuum left crosshatch marks in the rug. And I didn't pay much attention to that. I snuck past the piano, yet another thing I was not supposed to touch ever, and I longingly caressed those polished keys with a finger, and then from that I went straight to the cabinet, and I opened it, and I looked inside and found all of these classical LP records. Remember the day? These big records, we had a bunch of them, and one at a time I slipped them out. There was a Tchaikovsky, I slipped out Shostakovich, I slipped out the Red Army Choir. I looked at all of these albums, and I wondered about the music. It was the music of my heritage. I am Ukrainian. My family came from that part of the world. But I didn't linger too long, since my spidey sense, okay, was starting to tingle. Mom was supposedly busy downstairs, but you never knew. So I slipped those LPs back. I slunk out of the room. I smiled to myself at my cleverness. I had just done the forbidden. Until later, when Dad came home from work, "Bob, would you please tell your son not to go into the piano room? I work like a slave all day, and I don't need him going there and messing things up." Mom had found out because of my small footprints that had ruined the symmetry of the rug's crosshatching. And I hadn't thought of that. Mom couldn't bear my energy. I needed to sit down and shut up. I needed to be still. Being active in the house meant making a mess, and Mom hated messes. She was at war with messes. Mom couldn't stand a house that wasn't as sorted and as clean as a museum. If I didn't calm down, she'd put me outside and lock the door. That's what she often did. I'd be out there for hours. Even when I had to go to the bathroom, she would keep the door locked. I couldn't come inside. One day I tried a different strategy. Mom was drugging, so why not me? From previous times when I'd been sick with a cold, I'd noticed that the codeine-laced cough syrup, medicine that Dad gave me. It made me feel really good. Took me to a place where my body didn't need to soothe itself through restlessness or snooping. My body felt groovy. Had no problem sitting down then and shutting up. In fact, all felt perfectly right with my world. This stuff was a straight shot to sweetness. I'd think of Mom, I'd think of Dad, and I'd tear up with gooey feelings of love that I felt. It was a shortcut to love. The anger, the rage, it was all pushed aside. It was a relief. Raging against the people who were your sole source of protection did not feel safe. So my strategy was sneaking into the laundry room where the medicines were stored and stealing a few nips of that codeine-laced cough medicine. I did this early in the afternoon, so I'd have a couple hours to enjoy the kaleidoscope of the day. It made me into a different kind of kid. One way is this. I used to have a coin bank that looked like a barrel with a bunch of monkeys, like swinging on it. Smiling monkeys, and on that barrel were these words: quit monkeying around and save money. Okay? And I did, ruthlessly. I was a greedy kid with my money. That's me normal. That's normal. I was greedy. I didn't like to spend it. I wanted to keep it all because the fuller the bank was, the more I liked the sound when I shook it. Especially in my brother Rob's presence, making him green with envy. Oh yeah, my older brother. Oof. Yeah, Rob was always wanting to borrow money, and I was always pitiless. I was never going to go there until I started drugging. That's what turned this 1%er into a 99%er, okay? Rob, do you want some money? Sure. Want some more? Charge you interest? Are you kidding? What's the matter with me? Nothing. I feel fine. Dad eventually found out. Maybe Rob got seriously weirded out about my about-face generosity and complained to Dad. I don't know how he found out. All I know is when Dad found out, he bent me over his knee, he spanked me really good. He ordered me never to drink that stuff again. I limped away from the scene wondering why he never drew the line with Mom. And I never did drink the stuff again. And ironically, I would end up developing a deadly allergy to codeine. That was the active substance in that cough syrup. And while my path since the days of my childhood have not led me into further drugging, it has taken me into being a perfectionist, a workaholic, a caretaker. Not that wanting to excel is intrinsically bad, or working hard, or wanting to be a caring person, but, since drugs, as a way of playing God in my life, were out of the question, I took to something else instead. I took to codependency instead. That's what worked in my family. That's what worked to ease the restlessness and irritability and lack of peace that I never stopped feeling. My way of playing God, my way of lying to myself, that through carefully honed technique, I could command the love that I so craved and still crave. My technique. My insanity. That's my story. And if this were a real 12-step meeting, this would be time for me to sit down. Because as another 12-step slogan likes to say to people who are sharing their story, be interesting, be brief, be seated. But seeing that I'm the preacher today, let me tell you another story. And it comes from the tradition of Buddhism. One day, a woman approached the Buddha in tears. She presented him with her dead child and said, "Lord Buddha, I have heard that you can bring the dead back to life. So, this is my beloved son. He died only this morning. I beg you, Lord Buddha, restore him to me. The Buddha agreed, provided that the woman bring him a single mustard seed from a home in the village that had not experienced death. The woman ran to the village. She went from door to door to find even one house that had not been touched with death. And there would be no mustard seed to bring back to the Buddha. There wouldn't be. And so finally, after a long time, she returned to him. Her grief was no less, but her attitude had changed. She knew the inevitability of suffering and the futility of seeking to make things other than they are. She could now mourn her child with a heart full of acceptance and move on. And I share this story because it gets to the heart. It gets to the heart of the matter. Everybody hurts. Life can hurt us terribly, disappoint us deeply. If it is not a dysfunctional family with a drugging mom and a dealing dad, it's something else. Your child dies. You are estranged from family. You carry the burden of some chronic illness. You carry the burden of some identity, having an identity that the world marginalizes. You carry the burden of our dysfunctional American politics. You feel the burden and you feel the pain of even more violence in the Middle East, on top of Ukraine. Whatever it is always something. And this so very easily takes us to the reflex response that is at the bottom of every kind of addiction. The reflex response that is at the bottom of every kind of addiction, it is to refuse to move on. It is to refuse accepting reality. And this refusal energy, it morphs into paranoia that reality is out to get you. The essence of every kind of addiction is making war on reality so that one can live in a world that is perfectly ordered to one's own design, reflected in exactly the way my mom used to vacuum that piano room rug and keep the house museum clean and never stop battling against messes of which I was her primary one. The essence of every kind of addiction is the motivation behind the grieving mom who sought out the Buddha so that he could bring the child back to life again. Or trying to be the Buddha yourself, trying to work a miracle, playing God miracle of codeine-laced cough syrup, silver bullet solution shortcut to love, God miracle of perfectionism and workaholism and every kind of ism you can think of, in order to force into beings states of heart, states of mind, like self-confidence, contentment, peace. We sought, says Rabbi Rami Shapiro, to create for ourselves a world of light alone. And when that failed, we sought to shield ourselves from the dark through acts of self-medication. But 12-step spirituality says there's hope. There's T-I-M-E. I used to be a hopeless dope fiend. Now I'm a dopeless hope fiend. The power behind me is greater than the problem in front of me. One of the ways I practice 12-step spirituality is through a prayer of my own. I created it in the context of yet another circumstance in which I felt the itch to play God in my life. Being judge, jury, and executioner, all rolled up into one, judging where I was in my life, judging the world around me. It was years ago. I happened to be sitting on the steps of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. And I was watching the fascinating world of New York City go by with all its exotic and exciting sights and scenes, but I was feeling like I was on the outside, looking in. I was not able to take it all in. I was not able to be in that moment and just feel joy. I felt wretched. I felt alone, other, left out, ill-prepared for life because I had grown up in a screwed-up family. Feeding the stray cats of my resentments. And the more I fed them, the more of those stray cats gathered, those resentments. And out of this turmoil came the words of a prayer that I continue to pray to this very day, some days more than others. It's something like this. I forgive all of the ways in which my life appears to fall short. I trust that whatever I truly need will find its way into my life. I am grateful for what I have. That is my Holy Trinity. I'm a Unitarian Universalist, so I get to define that for myself. My Holy Trinity: forgiveness, trust, gratitude. Or if I had to give that just one word, it would be my faith, my spiritual faith, my faith, my faith. It was my way, unknowingly, because I wasn't familiar with 12-step spirituality back then, but it was my way of doing what the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous says: ceasing from fighting anything and everyone, stopping the war, and letting go of all of my pride that says that I am entitled for the world to be exactly as I want it to be. Letting go of pride, letting go of greed for more, letting go of the itch to order my world as my mom tried to order her house. How amazing to realize I had grown up to become my mother in that way. In a way that I so despised and hurt me so bad. Stopping that and relaxing into the sea of my life. This is the only power I really do have, not the hard power to command the world to be exactly as I want it to be, not hard power to command love, but soft power to let go and relax, soft power to let the sea of my life hold me and carry me along its currents, or as they say, to let go and let God. And I hasten to say, this is not about passivity. This is not that at all. It is about learning how to act from a different headspace and a different heart space. This is learning about how you can help to bring love to birth in your world, your private world, your public world, without the resentment and the aggression and the perfectionism. How you in your own life can step up, show up, do your part, and then let go. Forgiveness, trust, gratitude. Trusting that if I take one step at a time, with every step life is going to meet me with what I need. The daily bread will come. Alcoholism is a disease of faith, says the writers of the spirituality of imperfection. Alcoholics often develop a cynical attitude towards life, not seeing anything to believe in. When you persistently feel the need to change your consciousness through drugs or booze, you are expressing a fundamental lack of trust for yourself in your ability to tolerate life undiluted, to find value in your own unadulterated experience. That's what I saw Mom and Dad doing all the time, and I did it too. I knew and know this deep self-mistrust intimately. And there's another way. There's just another way. It's like my man, Ralph Waldo Emerson. This is my man. Ralph Waldo Emerson. It's just like he says in one of my all-time favorite quotes. He says, "There is a time in every person's education when they arrive at the conviction that envy is ignorance, that imitation is suicide, that they must take themselves for better, for worse, as their portion." Do you get that? Marry yourself. They must take themselves for better or for worse as their portion. That though the wide universe is full of good, no kernel of nourishing corn can come to them but through their toil bestowed on their plot of ground, which was given to them to till. It's forgiveness, trust, gratitude. The power behind me, which is greater than the problem in front of me. The higher power I have to turn my will and life over to again and again, lest resentment be the poison I keep on drinking, thinking that if I drink that poison, that other person's going to die. You ever heard that definition of resentment? You are drinking the poison thinking that it's going to kill that other person out there? Nope. Praying my forgiveness, trust, gratitude prayer again and again to open up my heart. It's just like washing the dishes. It never happens just once. It's just part of the human condition to slip into the mania of wanting to play God. But as Bill Wilson, creator of the 12-step program, says, first of all, we had to quit playing God. I can't do God's will my way. Let go and let God. The shortest sentence in the big book is, it works. Let's say our extinguishing the chalice words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us until we meet again. Either personally or in the larger world, no matter how weak or frightened we may feel, we each have gifts that can make a difference. In this coming week, I challenge you, do at least one thing to support the broken, which may be yourself. You may be feeling that yourself. You may be do at least one thing to welcome the stranger, to celebrate what is worthy, to do the work of love and justice, one day at a time. First things first, progress, not perfection. Each day, act so you may be a little more whole. Go in peace.